Father, Mother, God, Source Spirit, Creator of all that is, thank you for bringing us together, giving us a great opportunity to teach, practice, and learn awakening dynamics. Thank you, and namaste. All right, welcome everyone. Let's see, let's get this on gallery view, speaker view. Don't know why it's pinned on you, Ray.
I
I, gu-
don't know.
I guess
Who was the first one that
I
joined?
was the first one that joined,
maybe,
probably.
yeah. Anytime I don't have it pinned on one person, it's going to you. Anyhow, welcome everyone.
Thank you.
What I wanted to talk about today is something you probably heard me say quickly in level two, but who remembers every last thing you learned in level two? I'm not sure I do, right? And I've taught it like a dozen times. And so the title of the energy healing tip for today is an hour ago. What does that mean? Well, it doesn't happen a lot, but there are times when it's useful to try to nail down when a certain belief or trauma was taken on. That will give you some clues in terms of the timeline. That makes sense, right? So you go, well, I've had this issue since, so and so. You might check, okay, did this issue or this belief come before or after? And so just know that in general, the subconscious is pretty good with timing in that sense, in that it has some sense of it. But as with any belief, it's not going to be 100%. So don't expect it to be perfect, but for the most part, it's pretty accurate. So there's a couple times that I think you might use this. One is when you're trying to nail down when something, the order of events, in order to help dig on it. Hey, did A happen before B? Did B happen before C? Right? I didn't think I had a vow of poverty. I didn't used to, but it showed up, right? It's sometimes useful to narrow down, okay, when did it show up? Was it 3 years ago, 2 years ago, 6 months ago? That can be useful when you're doing digging. The other time you'll use this is if you're working with someone that's done lots and lots and lots of digging, like thousands and thousands of hours like me. What you'll find is that at some point, your brain and nervous system are doing the work even without you doing any kind of technique or process at all. And that makes it really difficult to dig. So if you're working with me and you're like, hey, Brent, test I have a vow of poverty, what's going to happen is as soon as my brain hears that, it's going to run off and clear it before I can even get my fingers up to test it. And so that makes digging a lot more difficult because you don't know if you're on the right track, right? If you're checking, do you have this block to see, okay, do we need to go deeper on this? And it's gone. Sometimes you need to know, was it there before we started? Or has it been gone for years or decades or lifetimes? And that's where the hour ago thing comes in and can be very useful. And of course, it doesn't have to be an hour. It could be 10 minutes, it could be 7 years, whatever, right? 15 parsecs, it's so on and so on. But yeah, a little Star Wars joke there. Everyone knows that a parsec is a unit of space, not time, right? Made the Kessel run in under like 7 parsecs. All right. Probably lost on anyone that's not a super nerd, but that's okay. Maybe someone watching this in the future will be a super nerd. And so you can use that a lot when you need to narrow down when a certain block or trauma or belief was taken on. Now, that's not going to happen all the time. Most of the time, you don't need it, but every now and then, right? That's why we call it tips for energy healing, not things you absolutely need to know. The things you absolutely need to know were in level one, level two. We're kind of filling in around the edges here. Does that make sense? And, again, I wouldn't totally trust it with my life because we're working with beliefs here and they can be easily changed, right? But in terms of finding ordering and events and time to help your digging, it's probably pretty reliable. So that's what I have prepared for today. If you guys have questions or shares, now's your chance. Don't everyone go at once. I'm going to have to hand out wristbands, right?
Brent, um, I was just wondering if for a couple of minutes, if we could all send love and peace to the people that are involved in the war in Palestine. I know we're not trying to politicize this, but I just thought this is a good moment for or
All right.
love
You
and
know, why don't we
peace with
send
it.
unconditional love to everyone in conflict around the world? Why don't we do that?
That's a wonderful thing.
Without picking sides or making it political.
Exactly.
Just
Exactly.
recognizing there's a lot of people suffering, and for the vast majority of them, it's not their fault. They didn't have a
How
voice
about
in
the
it.
hurricane people?
Well, that's why I say anyone suffering, conflict with
Suffering,
nature, I
suffering.
think
Yeah, I
counts as a
thought you said
conflict.
conflict.
Yeah.
Suffering would be
But
good.
conflict with nature is a conflict,
Yep, yep, yep. That's
you know.
true.
I've certainly had to fight nature at various points in my life, you know. It was a great experience I had. I think I was an undergrad. I went to a Taekwondo tournament and we were staying, there was like 19 of us all crammed into some tiny little cabin because no one had any money, right? Bunch of college students. And it was the only time in my life I was cold and I could not get warm. It was torture. And it really gave me a different view and more compassion of what absolute torture it is to be cold and not be able to get warm. I had put on literally every piece of clothing I brought with me, and I was still cold because I think it was in November. And when we drove out, it was like 60 degrees, and that's not too bad, but it dropped down to like 30 at night. And we were all just freezing our asses off. So, yeah, I found that when you're cold and you can't get warm, or you're hungry and you can't get food, is a level of suffering that most of us have never experienced. I hope you don't. But it really kind of opens your heart when you realize how many people that's happening to right at this moment. And again, for most of them, they had nothing to do with the conflict that led to it. Same thing with the hurricane, right? Most of the people affected, they didn't do anything to piss off the weather, did they? No, they just lived there. So let's go ahead and do that. We'll take a minute and send unconditional love. All right. Stay with it as long as you like. Any other shares or questions before we go into our breakout rooms? Awesome. Oh, perfect. We got 6 people. Anybody not practicing tonight? I'm hoping everyone's Oh, okay. So we're gonna end up with 2 groups of 3.
Sorry. On Monday, just jump in for the lecture,
Okay.
but on Tuesday, I'm in for practice.
All right. So we'll have 2 groups of 3. All right. So anybody want to be the third wheel? Otherwise, I will just assign randomly. All right. Well, we'll assign randomly. All right. I will close my eyes and we'll see who gets picked. Oop. I missed it. Okay. Oh, looks like, we had someone join. Awesome. Perfect. Let me recreate. Never mind that. We will have 3 groups of 2. Yay. And see, Arena is not practicing. All right, here we go. I'll be here if you guys need me.
Brent, I had a question which is not directly related to the time